Okay, so good morning, students. Let's proceed with where we had left off yesterday. So we were discussing the impairments in the fiber. We are already done with attenuation, and we had started discussing the dispersion aspect, which broadens the pulses that travel over a distance of the channel. So in this case, the pulses in the form of light are going to be broadened as the light is going to propagate through the fiber, right? So we have seen how the bandwidth can be related to this broadening, that is the maximum bit rate that is related to the broadening. We've solved a problem based on that. We have looked at the two types of dispersions, namely the intermodal dispersion, which occurs mostly in the multimode fiber, and then we have looked at the intramodal dispersion, which occurs in the single mode fiber. The intramodal dispersion has two subparts, namely the material and the waveguide dispersion. Right? So for the intermodal dispersion in multimode fibers, we have derived the value of delta t, that is the broadening, and we have solved numerical based on that. And what we have seen is that delta t is directly proportional to L, which is the length of the fiber, and therefore you cannot just keep increasing the length of a multimode fiber for transmission, because the broadening is going to increase. Therefore we make the statement that multimode fibers are not good enough for long distance transmission. Okay, so we solved problem based on that. For the intramodal dispersion, yesterday we looked at the material dispersion and the waveguide dispersion. The intramodal dispersion is more popularly known as the chromatic dispersion. The reason being that it operates at, or it is a function of the wavelength. And we have seen that this source, be it the LED or the laser, is going to operate at different wavelength rather than a single wavelength, right? So there is going to be some uh, broadening by the source itself, right? Ideally, we expect this source to be operating only at one wavelength, but because of the property of the source, which we will see in module 3, it operates over a range of wavelengths. So that is known as spectral broadening, which you can see on the graph on the left hand side. So this is just an example of an LED which is operating with a spectral width of plus minus 20 nanometer about the central wavelength of 850 nanometer. So in general, LED will give us a width of about 36 nanometers. So that's not a good scenario, but we need to work with it. Okay. So then we yesterday looked at certain new aspects called the phase velocity and the group velocity, and how the energy in this single mode travels uh, at different times, or with different velocity, therefore they reach the output at different times. Okay, so that leads to broadening. So we have seen this group delay per unit length of the fiber, how it is defined. We looked at the material dispersion, and we have derived the equation for the material dispersion, which is the one in the bracket, which is starred. So we have two equations here. One is sigma m, which is basically the spectral width. So just for clarity, I will write this as spectral width, that is the sigma m, right? And then you have m, which is the denotation for material dispersion. Material dispersion. Okay. So in few books and sources in the over the internet, this M is sometimes just written as DMAT, to say that this is dispersion due to material dispersion. So you can use that as well. I've just denoted it by M. And the units are very important. The units are stated here. The units are picosecond per nanometer kilometer. So usually your material dispersion will be in picoseconds per nanometer kilometer. Okay. And then we briefly discussed what this waveguide dispersion is, and I told you that the mathematics is a little complicated, but we just want to understand what this waveguide dispersion occurs because of. So it occurs from the variation of group velocity with wavelength. So Vg becomes a function of lambda, and n, the refractive index, also becomes a function of wavelength. So this factor here, n of lambda, is a very important factor, and this we'll see in module 3 in sources, why this is so important. The wavelength at which a source operates is going to affect the refractive index of the fiber. So once you have fixed the refractive index, now it is up to fixing the wavelength, so that we don't have dispersion and changes in refractive index. Okay, so I've just given you the mathematical equation, and then I was explaining you what our actual aim is. So our actual aim is to get or operate at that wavelength where the dispersion is also minimum and attenuation is also minimum, right? So I've drawn these two graphs which you can see on the screen. One is for dispersion and another one is for alpha. I have not specified the units, so assuming this is picosecond, nanometer per kilometer, and alpha will always be in dB per kilometer, and lambda is on the x-axis is in nanometers. So you can see from the graph that attenuation is low at 1550 nanometer, whereas it is high at 1310 or 1310 on 20 nanometer. The total dispersion goes to a zero, that is the minimum value at 1310 nanometer. So this is the minimum value, whereas it is high at 1550 nanometer, right? So there is a trade-off there. So if I operate at 1550 nanometer, then I will get high dispersion but low attenuation. If I operate at 1310, 1320 nanometer, I will get high attenuation but zero dispersion, right? So then there is a trade-off there, and what exactly is to be done, that is something that we need to look at. But the aim is, and I think the aim is very clear to understand, the aim is operate at a wavelength lambda where dispersion and attenuation is low. That is what we want. Okay, so that is our aim, and there are techniques, there are fibers which help us do that. They are known as the dispersion shifted fiber. We cannot shift the alpha value because of the OH minus ions which are there in the alpha. So there is a good technique of shifting the dispersion of the fiber, and that we are going to look at in today's lecture. Okay. So before that, just very quickly, we'll solve one numerical, and then we'll move to this dispersion shifted fibers, and then discuss what is the total dispersion in the fiber. Okay. So let us look at this one numerical. So a glass fiber. The question is, a glass fiber exhibits dispersion given by, so they have given the equation here, which is lambda square d square n1 by d lambda square. And I explained to you why we are using the modulus, because the broadening cannot be on the negative side. So using the modulus, it's only going to be a positive broadening. Okay. So given by that equation of 0.025. Okay. Next statement, material dispersion at determine, the question is, that's the question, determine. So I'm just going to write M, material dispersion at 0.85 micrometer. Second question, estimate the RMS pulse broadening per kilometer for LED source with an RMS spectral width of 20 nanometer at this wavelength. Okay. So we are given that equation, lambda square of that value d square n1 by d lambda square. We need to find the material dispersion at wavelength 0.85 micrometer. We need to also estimate RMS pulse broadening per kilometer for the source given its spectral width of 20 nanometer at this wavelength. That means at 0.85 micrometer. Okay. So first we will rewrite the equation for the material dispersion M, which is lambda by C d square n1 by d lambda square. Okay. However, if you see the value inside the modulus and the value which is given to us, this one which I'm starring, they look the same inside the bracket, d square n1 by d lambda square, but we are missing a lambda square outside. Therefore, what I'm going to do is multiply and divide by lambda square. Okay. So once you do that, you'll get lambda divided by lambda square c modulus lambda square d square n1 by d lambda square. We just multiplied and divided by lambda square. Right? Therefore, m will become 1 by c lambda. The lambda in the numerator and the denominator cancel. Lambda square d square n1 by d lambda square. So now we can plug in the values. We are given lambda square d square n1 by d lambda square. If you look at the question, that value is given to us, and that value is 0.025. Right? So we can substitute that value directly. That value in the modulus is 0.025 divided by c is 3 into 10 raised to 8 into lambda. Lambda is given to us as 0.85 micrometer. So you'll have 0.85 into 10 raised to negative 6. Right? So therefore m will be 0.025. There will be a 10 raised to 2 left in the denominator, so I'll get it on the numerator, 10 raised to negative 2 divided by 3 into 0.85. So let's see what answer do you get. Anyone with the calculator can match the answer with me. And we will want to express this in the units picosecond per nanometer per kilometer. Okay, so we already have if you want to express it in that format, hold on, let me rewrite the equation again. We want nanometer, so 0.025 divided by 3 into 10 raised to 8 into, now this 0.85 is 0.85 micrometer, so we have 0.85 micrometer, so it is 0.85 into 10 raised to negative 6. 0.85, if I want to make it nanometer, I'll have 10 raised to negative 3 multiply with 10 raised to 3 and 10 raised to negative 6, right? So I'll get 0.85 into 10 raised to 3, and this 10 raised to negative 3 and 10 raised to negative 6 will become 10 raised to negative 9. So you'll get 0.85 into 3 will be 850, and you'll get nanometer, right? So I'll just write this as 850 into 10 raised to negative 9. Right? So that is the units. Then I can write it as nanometer per kilometer. Okay. So let's check what answer we get for this.
(9.8 into 10 raised to minus 5).
Yeah, 9.8 into 10 raised to minus 5. Anyone else with that answer?
Yes, sir. 9.8.
Yeah. So we have 9.8 into 10 raised to negative. Hold on, is that correct? Let me just check. If I want to write it in picosecond per nanometer kilometer, I should have. Are we getting 10 raised to negative 5 only?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. We'll just leave it like that. Then you have seconds per kilometer per nanometer per kilometer. Okay. The next question is, let me scroll up. Next question is, estimate the RMS pulse broadening considering LED source with the spectral width of 20 nanometer, right? So for this also we can use the standard equation. So here the standard equation which we can use is sigma m, that is the broadening due to material dispersion, that is approximately sigma lambda L divided by C lambda d square n1 by d lambda square. So this was the equation which we had derived yesterday before deriving the material dispersion, right? This can also be written as sigma lambda L m, right, where m is the material dispersion. So sigma lambda is given to us, which is 20 nanometer, right? So you'll get 20 nanometer into L, which is the length of the fiber. So since we are doing, they have asked us RMS spectral width, RMS pulse broadening per kilometer, right? So we are just going to write this as 1 kilometer into m, which we have just calculated, 9.8 into 10 raised to minus 5. Right? So in effect, what we are calculating is sigma m per kilometer, sigma m by L, right? So this will be 20 nanometer, 20 nanometer into 9.8 into 10 raised to minus 5 seconds per nanometer per kilometer. So the sigma m by L will get some value. Let's see what will be the units. So I'll take this nanometer here, okay, and write this as nanometer, and you have multiplied with seconds divided by nanometer kilometer, right? So the nanometer and nanometer will cancel. So what we'll get as the answer will be having the units seconds per kilometer, and makes sense because sigma m is broadening in seconds and L is the distance which will be in kilometers, right? So the units will match. So anyone with a calculator can tell me what answer you get. If you get something like 196 or 1.96, or 98 into 2 will be 196. So if I do that here itself,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so you'll get
1.96 into 10
1.
raised to minus 12.
Uh, 10.
1960 into 10 raised to minus 15.
Okay. Or you can just leave it like that. You get 1.96 into 10 raised to minus 12.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it will be 1.96 picosecond per kilometer. So we can leave it like that. Or if you want, you can do it 10 raised to minus 15. If you want, you can do it nanoseconds. It's up to you. But that is the answer we get. Okay. And importantly, the units also match that. So we are correct in that sense. So I hope other students are also getting that answer. Okay. So before we discuss the shifting of the dispersion and what are those types, let us quickly just look at what is this overall fiber dispersion, because now we have discussed all the types of dispersions, that is intermodal, intramodal, and the subtypes inside that. So the overall fiber dispersion is given in the form of RMS pulse broadening. So this will have the form of RMS pulse broadening, and this RMS pulse broadening is denoted as sigma t, which is the total dispersion, and this is equal to, sigma, let me denote it in a form which is generally done. So you have some sigma c plus sigma n square, each square, and whole raised to 1 by 2, where sigma c is the chromatic dispersion CD or intramodal dispersion, and sigma n is the intermodal dispersion, which happens in the in the multimode fiber, and therefore we can write sigma c is sigma w, that is the waveguide dispersion, plus sigma material, that is the material dispersion, right? So sigma square will be that. Okay. So since it is RMS pulse broadening, we always find the square and then we find the square root, right? That's how we find the half wave, the half signal value, right, or the half bandwidth. Okay. So we'll look at this factor also a little later in terms of the solving some questions. Okay. So let us now look at this dispersion shifting, right? What this exactly means and what we are trying to get here. So the next topic which we are looking at is dispersion shifting. Dispersion shifting. Okay. So I had already drawn one graph yesterday to show you what exactly this dispersion shifting means and what we are trying to do and what our aim is. Okay. So the aim is very simple. For a single mode fiber, which is most popularly used, to ensure that we can use it for longer distances, we need to have very low attenuation and very low dispersion. Therefore, the bandwidth length product, which is one of the performance indicators, the bandwidth length product, this can be high, right? So for this to be high, alpha should be low and the dispersion D should also be low, right? And that is what our aim is in understanding these kind of fibers which we are going to discuss, right? So very quickly I'll redraw that graph on the side so that you'll always have a reference what we are trying to do. So this is lambda in nanometer, this is lambda in nanometer, this is dispersion in picosecond per nanometer per kilometer. This is alpha in dB per kilometer. So let us have some wavelengths. Let's say 1300, 1400, 1500, 1300, 1400, and 1500. Okay, I'm not drawing the lower wavelengths like 800 and 900 because we know what happens there, right? So in terms of the attenuation, so it will keep decreasing, and somewhere around 1410, 1420, because of the OH minus ions, it increases and then comes back, and around 1550 nanometer, this is where our interest is, the 1550 nanometer, right? This is where we want to operate. There is another reason why we want to operate at 1550 nanometer. So just to give you a highlight, because there you could have the question why we are focusing only on 1550 nanometer, right? So this 1550 nanometer helps us in other senses. We can use an amplifier known as the erbium doped fiber amplifier and the Raman amplifiers at this wavelength. We can use laser at this wavelength as the source, and we can use the APD, that is the avalanche photodiode, also at this wavelength, right? So these are the advantages of operating at 1550. If you move to 1310, 1320 nanometer, you may not be able to use the laser efficiently. You will not be also able to use the APD at 1310, 1320 nanometer, right? It will not be very effective. So that's why we are aiming to always operate at 1550 nanometer. Okay. In terms of dispersion, So if this is the zero value of the dispersion, then let me draw it as a dotted line. So the dispersion just increases like that, right? So around this value here, this is 1320 or 1330, 1310. It's experimental, so it keeps changing, but around that range this dispersion is zero. But where we want to operate 1550, this dispersion is very high, right? So we want to operate at so our aim is to operate at a wavelength that is 1550 nanometer, so that we can use very effective devices like APD or Raman amplifiers. We could use a laser, we could use an APD, right? So the aim is can we move this dispersion that we see on this dispersion here. This is the zero dispersion, right? So as you can see on the graph, this is zero dispersion. So the aim is, can I move this zero dispersion to somewhere here? I want to move this here. If you see, I'm circling a dot there. So I want to move this at 1550 nanometer, but actually the dispersion is high. But can I move this zero dispersion to 1550 nanometer? Therefore, what will happen is at 1550 nanometer, now see, I'll make a bracket here. At 1550 nanometer, if I'm able to move that zero dispersion, then I will be getting low attenuation and low dispersion. So I'll get low dispersion and low attenuation. Right? So that is what we intend to do here. Right? So in this regard, uh, we will not be able to change the basic material dispersion. That is very hard to change because once you have made the fiber using a certain material, it is not possible for us to change the material of that fiber. However, it is possible to modify the waveguide dispersion, and this can be done changing from a simple step index core profile to little complicated profiles, right? So we have already seen the step index and the graded index profiles before. So by making certain changes to that kind of index profile, refractive index profile, we can get some other kinds of fibers which will help us in moving this zero dispersion from 1320 nanometer or 1330 nanometer towards 1550 nanometers, right? So in general, the researchers have altered the behavior of the single mode fibers by experimenting and examining various kinds of core and cladding refractive index configurations. So with that, we've achieved these kind of newer fibers which will help us change that dispersion, right? So after doing all these kind of analysis, the researchers have come up with three basic types. So the first type is known as the 1300 nanometer optimized fibers. The second one is known as the dispersion shifted fibers, in short DSFs, and the third one are known as dispersion flattened fibers, DFFs. Okay. So these are the major categories. However, you can also get different types within these categories. So I'll be describing that once we go into each and every type of fiber. Okay. So let us look at them in detail, and I will also be drawing the index profiles as we move on. Okay, so let me draw one line and we'll start with these fibers. So first we'll pick the 1300 nanometer optimized fibers. So these are most popular single mode fibers. These are all single mode fibers. These are most popularly used, and these are near step index fibers. And you'll see once I draw the index profile, these are near the step, almost step index fibers. So what you get is something like this. So the index profile looks like this. So this is the diameter of the core 2A, and this will be the delta value, that is the profile, the relative profile, and this is somewhere around 0.35%, and the core radius is somewhere around 4.5 micrometer. This kind of profile is also known as matched cladding. Okay. There is another kind of profile which we can have for the 1300 nanometer optimized fibers. So let me draw it and then I will name it for you. Okay. And here we have two kinds of index profiles, delta 1 and delta 2. This is around 0.25%, and then you also have one delta 2 inside the core and cladding again, which is around 0.12%, and this is the diameter of the core, and radius is about 4.2 micrometer. This kind of a profile is known as depressed cladding, and you can see why it is called the depressed cladding, because in the clad you can see that we have more of a depression in the terms of the refractive index profile, right? So these kind of 1300 nanometer optimized fibers are very, very popular, and you could have the matched cladding or the depressed cladding uh, in this sense. Okay, so you can see from the diagram that this matched cladding, these have a uniform refractive index throughout, right? So if you look at the in the cladding where I'm drawing an arrow, you can see that the refractive index is uniform, and you can see inside the core where I'm drawing a double arrow, you can see that the refractive index is again uniform. So that's why they are close to the step index fibers, right? You can also have the depressed cladding fibers, and in these fibers, as you can see in the diagram on the right, the cladding portion which is next to the core, right? So let me draw the arrow so that you can understand the cladding portion next to the core, that is this one. I'm dotting it, and right, so that portion there next to the core has a lower index than the outer cladding. So this is the outer cladding which now I'm shading here, right? So that's why it is depressed, because the cladding portion just next to the core has a lower index, lower refractive index, compared to the outer cladding which has higher index, right? So that's why it is known as a depressed cladding. Okay. So more detail is there in the book, but these are the most important kind of details which are required in terms of matched cladding and depressed cladding. Okay. Now, so we have seen that material dispersion basically depends on the composition of the fiber, the material which is used. Whereas this waveguide dispersion, if you saw the equation which I had written, it is a function of the radius, the core radius, the delta, which is the uh, relative index difference, and the shape of the profile, right? So these three things can be altered so that the dispersion can be taken to a zero value. Okay, so this idea that is by shifting the waveguide dispersion to longer wavelengths and assuming a constant value of the material dispersion will lead to fibers which can give us approximately zero dispersion, and these fibers are known as dispersion shifted fibers. Okay, so whatever I've just said, I'll write the important point. So the material dispersion is a constant. Okay, we are assuming it's a constant because it depends on material. Okay, it depends on material, cannot be changed. It cannot be changed. Okay. Now, the waveguide dispersion, d waveguide, this depends on core radius, the refractive index profile, and delta and delta. So we can alter all these three, or any two or any one, so that we can shift d waveguide to, we can shift this waveguide dispersion to longer wavelength, right? So what is going to happen because of that? Once you shift this to waveguide dispersion to longer wavelength, and since the material dispersion is constant, your total wave dispersion will move to a longer wavelength, and that is exactly what we are trying to do. So we want to move from the 1300 towards the 1500 nanometer, right? So these kind of fibers are known as the dispersion shifted fibers, and these will operate for us at about 1550 nanometer, right? So just to see the index profiles of these uh, dispersion shifted fibers, so we can have two kinds of profiles here. One is a standard refractive index for step index fiber. So you can have this will be the radius diameter of the core, and A will be a little less, about 2.2 micrometer. And then if you see, you are having a very large refractive index profile difference value, that is delta, which is about 1.2%. Okay, so this is a step index kind of profile for the DSFs. You can also have a triangular profile where the core index looks like this, then you have some flattening, then it increases and then flattens out, right? So same thing occurs on this side. So here the index difference is about 1%, and you have different kinds of radius values. So you have A1, then you have 1 till here, which is A2. So you have 1 till here, which is A2, and then finally you have 1 which is here till A3. Okay, and these have their own different values, right? So it is not expected that you remember these values. It's difficult to remember, but you can remember the profile. If you remember the values, it's good. And this will be delta 2, which is about 0.2%. So this is a triangular profile, and it helps in getting this dispersion shifted from the lower wavelength towards the higher wavelength. Okay, so the idea is we do not shift the material dispersion. We will not be able to shift it. We only shift the waveguide dispersion, right? And that too towards the longer wavelengths. Okay. The third kind of fiber is known as the dispersion flattened fiber. Now, this is an alternate method, in the sense that the other alternative we have is uh, by spreading the dispersion to broader range, rather than concentrating it only around 1500 nanometer or 1600 nanometer. We will try to spread it over a broader range. So the idea here for the DFF, dispersion flattened fibers, is to flatten the dispersion. That means spread the dispersion minimum over a broader range, right? So by doing that, we can get a minimum at different values of the uh, wavelengths, right? So, but the problem is these kind of fibers, they are complex to design compared to your DSF, which you will just see, because you're considering the dispersion to be over a range of wavelengths, right? But they do provide us with other advantages, but it is difficult and complex to design them, right? These fibers can be used in WDM networks, which is wavelength division multiplexing networks, and we'll see that later in module 5 how it can be used for WDM systems, right? So I'll just draw the profiles of this DFF, the index profiles, and you'll see that it's really a complex business to make these kind of fibers, right? So to have these kind of refractive index profiles is not easy. uh, we are just doing the diagram here, but for a manufacturer it becomes a big problem, right? So these are not that popular, uh, but yeah, they do kind of work. Okay. So you have two radiuses, A1 and A2, and then you have two deltas. So delta 1 is about 0.75%, and then you have delta 2, which is about 0.45%. So this kind of a profile is known as double clad, because it has two cladding, or W profile, because it looks like a W. So if you see this diagram which I've drawn, looks like a W here. So that's why it's also called a W profile. The other profile which we have is a quadruple clad profile, and as the name suggests, it's going to have four such claddings, and you'll see that it's very complex to design. Okay, so it's easier said than done, because this will be very difficult to design, right? So the dispersion flattened fibers, they are used at certain points, but they are not that popular. Okay. So this is what your book mentions, and your book also gives you a very good diagram in three-dimensional view that you can see. So have a look at the book and see, how this profile looks like. Okay. Apart from this, the ones which are not mentioned, there are other kind of fibers. So I'll just put it as a fourth type. These are types of dispersion shifted fibers. These are types of dispersion shifted fibers. They are known as zero dispersion fiber, zero DSF, in short ZDSF, which will give you exactly zero dispersion. But there are other problems with these kind of fibers. However, we cannot discuss that in the scope of this syllabus. They provide higher non-linearity, like the four-wave mixing and other things will be higher. Then the other type in this is known as the non-zero DSF, NZDSF, and as the name suggests, it will give you non-zero dispersion. Means it will give you dispersion close to the a non-zero value, uh, but it will be less affected by the non-linearities, right? So these are the other kinds of dispersion shifted fibers which are used, and all these fibers which we have discussed, they are all recognized by ITU, that is the International Telecommunication Union, and you will find the numbers of these fibers. So when you say dispersion shifted fiber, this is just additional information. So when you find when you say a dispersion shifted fiber, they are named as some G 1.98, for example, right, or G168. So these are the numbers of the fibers. So when you purchase these fibers, you'll be purchasing the fibers based on these names, rather than dispersion shifted fibers. Okay. So let us look at the overall diagram that we can have once we use these different fibers. Okay, this diagram is very important. So it gives us an idea. This graph gives us an idea of how these dispersion shifted fibers can really help us in getting a very low dispersion. Okay, so let this be let dispersion be on the y-axis, so d, and this is picosecond per nanometer per kilometer. Let this be the wavelength lambda in nanometer on the x-axis. Again, I'll be drawing only the higher wavelengths. So let's start with 1300, go to 1400, and then a 1500, and finally a 1600. Let this be the zero dispersion. So I'll have a dotted line there. Okay, so this is zero dispersion. Let this be -10. Let this be -20 here. Let this be +10, and let this be +20, right? So if you have a 1300 nanometer optimized fiber which we are using, then you will get the zero dispersion somewhere around 1320 nanometers, and the dispersion profile looks like this. So this is your 1300 nanometer optimized fiber. Okay. If we use a dispersion flattened fiber, then we will get the zero dispersion over a range of wavelengths. So in that case, we get a diagram like this or a profile like this, and you get zero dispersion at multiple wavelengths. So this is your dispersion flattened fiber. If you have a dispersion shifted fiber, then it looks something like this. So you get almost a zero dispersion at 1550 nanometer here, dispersion shifted fiber, and therefore the dispersion shifted fiber is the one which is the most popular, and there are different variants of this dispersion shifted fiber, right? But for us in this course, it will be the dispersion shifted fibers which will be which are more the most popular. Okay, so this completes the dispersion aspect. That is the dispersion, what dispersion does to the overall performance of the fiber, and how, what are the types, and how it can be minimized or how it can be shifted. So